You know, that's a photo there that came up there of my mum. I thought I'd show you a photo of my mum. If you put that one back up there. She was a fun-loving character, larger than life. Everybody she met, she wanted to become friends with. She was always smiling, always happy, always making things happen in the home, which was really fun, always smiling. You know, it's been quite emotional to look at old photos. It is, isn't it, when you look at photos and you think, that history together, and it's all suddenly gone. And it made me think, you know, if I saw my mum again, unfortunately I won't see again here on this earth because she's no longer with us. What would I say to her? What would I say if I just had one more conversation? Would it be, thank you, Mum. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for the sacrifice you made. Or maybe it would be, I love you. I didn't tell her very often. She didn't tell me very often. The last time I spoke to her, she went off to Ely Station and I waved her off. She'd been for the weekend to visit. And I wish I'd said, I love you. I wish I'd said it. I can't take that back. But today I'd encourage you, if you've still got your mum, even if you're estranged from her, take today to be the provocation to say what you'd like to say to her. Whether it's I love you, or I forgive you, or I miss you. Say something today for your mum. Take that moment. And we've got the image here with my sisters. I don't know whether that's up there with my family. Okay. My mum was a larger-than-life character, a big influence on me. And there I am with my 3 sisters and my dad. My mum was turning 70 at that point, quite a while now, a long time ago. But you know, I've not only had a physical mum, but I've had many spiritual mums in my life. And this is the thing you see within God, within God's family. Not only do we have biological kids, but many of us have spiritual kids. I believe I've got many adopted kids that I've taken into my world and that I've nurtured and I've grown. And I myself have had many spiritual mothers, and I've got some images of my spiritual mother. My first spiritual mother was my Sunday school teacher before she became my mother-in-law. Beryl Campbell was my first spiritual mother. She taught me how to love the Word, how to love the Bible, and to always trust God. That was Beryl. And then my second spiritual mother was a lady called Clarine. She actually was our first pastor in the World Church, and she'd come over from Guyana. Ivor had gone over and done some mission work there, and she'd become a Christian. She came over to the UK and brought a family up in the world. And she became a spiritual mother to me when I first got involved in ministry. So Clarine, she showed me what it was to stand up for what you believe in, to really stand up for your faith. It wasn't always easy, but she stood for her faith. Another lady that has been a spiritual mother to me is a lady called Margaret Stunt. Some of you may know her. And the thing that I feel the lesson I've learned from her is to do it afraid. Go ahead and do it afraid. Don't let fear hold you back. Do it afraid. And then I think of Ann Webster, part of C3 here, particularly when I first moved here to Cambridge many years ago. She was a real mother to me, a spiritual mother to me. And one of the lessons I'd say from Ann that she'd shown me through the years is to always care, always love. She's been the one that's given me gifts and remember birthdays and Christmases, and she's not the reason that I love her, but she showed me her faith, and she showed me her faithfulness and her steadfastness. When people have walked away, she's been there, and she's been like a mother to me. And I'd also mention Val, a lady called Val Burrows. I remember one time I was ill in hospital, and she came to visit me, and she said to me, God will use this for good. I didn't want to hear those words right then. I didn't want to be in the situation I was in. But she said, God will use this for good. And he did. And God has been faithful through that. I remember Val for that comment, for that moment, and for many other conversations through the years where Val has been faithful. Spiritual mothers who show me what their faith is You may not be a physical mother, but you can be a spiritual mother. See, mothering is a high calling. It's not the only calling over women's lives, but it is a high calling. And he does call us, each and every one of us, to love one another, to serve one another, to weep with those that weep, and to rejoice with those that rejoice. You know, I always thought about what is mothering all about? And there's this beautiful verse in Proverbs 31. It says, her children arise and call her blessed. Her children arise and call her blessed. If we can have mothering in our attitude, if we can have mothering, that we have an attitude of mothering of the people around us, then the children under our wing, we want them to arise. We want them to grow. We want them to flourish. We want them to become all that God's got destined for them. We want them to fulfill their potential, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally. We want them to arise. And we want them to arise and call the mothers in the house blessed. We want them to know where the blessing comes from, that it's because of God in your life that they can see the blessing of God in our life, that we share faith with one another, that we encourage one another, that we support one another, that we give wisdom to children, not only just natural children and younger children, but children who maybe are just people who are more vulnerable than us, people who need that support, people who feel like they're on the edge, feel maybe they're just walking into faith and they need help finding faith and making them understand faith, helping them on the journey. We can help them to arise. We can help them to grow and to be strengthened and to flourish. You know, in order for people to arise, they have to feel safe. And we can put that context around them to help them feel safe, to look out for them, to remember them, to text them, to message them, to look out for them in the room and remember the appointment that they had or the interview that they were going to the help that we have a community of one another, helping one another to arise. You know, I do think women are particularly good at this. They're particularly good at looking at the person, finding the people who are on the edge, and tucking them in, drawing them in, bringing them into community.
If you enjoyed this video today, why don't you click subscribe and click on that notification bell to get a notification the next time we upload a video. And if you're new or you've been coming to the C3 Church for a little while now, why don't you find out what your next step might be in the journey of faith? Click on the next step link in the description below to find out what your next step in your journey might be.